Welcome to The Next Interview, a podcast about careers, life, and achieving our greatest potential. And now, here's your host, Doland White.
Hi, welcome to The Next Interview podcast. I'm Doland White. I am your host, as you can see by the name on my screen if you're watching it on YouTube. And today I'm honored to have two guests side by side. This is a brand new experience for me to have two guests on, Brian and Lindsay Schlick from Schlick Art. And thanks for being here. I really appreciate you guys taking time to come hang out with me and talk about leadership and kind of do the things that we're going to do.
We're excited to jump into it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I love this. This is going to be an adventure. So for those individuals watching the podcast and who have not met you yet, if you would, please let's just take a moment. Who are you? What do you do? And then I'll get into kind of why you're here, and then I got a bunch of questions for you. But let's kind of start with, introduce yourself to everyone.
Oh, I'm doing it. Okay. We are Brian and Lindsay Schlick. We own Schlick Art, a visual marketing company. So we're a visual marketing company that helps businesses, professionals, and personal brands with anything from photography, video to marketing strategy. So we can help companies form what their marketing should look like going forward for the future. And it's all based around goals, right? So we don't just take photos and shoot video for the sake of doing that. We have a plan and a purpose before we have people step in front of our camera. And even if they don't step in front of our camera, we can still help with marketing strategy.
Yeah. And then, to get down to it, like a lot of companies, most companies, even if they have, marketing people within their company, sometimes they're a little inside the box and, they're looking to do something new and they don't know how to get from A to B whilst they're along the same lines, still trying to do all the day to day. So we're very good at coming in and, creating strategy and sitting down and listening to, their pain points and where they are right now and where they want to be. And from that, we can build a visual marketing strategy for, 6 months, a year, 5 years, we can build it through however they need. So that's generally what we do for our companies.
That's awesome. So I just want to unpack that just a little bit. So
Sure.
From the purpose of the podcast is there's my tagline for the podcast. It's built by leaders for leaders. And it's fun to have you here because you have a kind of a duality in what you do with your clients, right? You lead your own company and you lead your own development. We'll talk a little bit about kind of the arc and how you've kind of arrived at where you are today doing these things. And what made you say this is a good idea to go help people do these things? But the other part of it too is I want to spend just a minute or two today kind of as we're talking about this, about why this matters to a leader, why it's important for them to do that, and why, because I'm a strong believer in having a smart agency, and you guys are a smart agency, to come work side by side with a company to do kind of, Lindsay, what you just said, that, they are there in the box. I call it the Kool-Aid. They've been drinking the Kool-Aid for a long time. And when you're inside of the body of a company and you've had a lot of Kool-Aid, it's hard to see outside perspectives, right?
100%.
And hear what can I be doing better. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the growth of your company and kind of what took you on this journey to come do this for people. What did you see that said, I think people need this? Yeah.
I mean, for me, I would say, both Brian and I came from a place of service. For those of you who know our backgrounds, we both worked for Princess Cruises on board the ships. Before that, I was supervisors at restaurants, and, I feel like we've always come from that place of service. And if you've ever been on a cruise ship or worked on a cruise ship, there's not only is there your job and what you do on the day to day, for us being photography and video, there's also the elements of you're there for people's safety as well. If you've ever had to do a cruise drill or what have you, you're also there to lead in case of an emergency, make sure everybody is safe and happy and having a really great time. And you have to have an element of leadership in that. But I really do believe that when it comes to being a good leader, it also comes from a place of service. You're not taking control and taking over because you know, it's not an arrogancy. Well, it's not for me anyway, an arrogancy thing. I think it's more a case of you want everybody to be happy and served and have a great time and the product to be exactly what they're looking for. And the only way you can do that is to serve the client, serve the leaders, and move forward and take a little bit of ownership of that and help people get from A to B.
Yeah, and I think the thing that kind of drives us in the way, looking at it from a leader's perspective, is watching other people succeed. And if we're the people that are helping drive that success for whatever their company is, it could be just a one person company, or it could be a bigger organization, but watching people succeed based on, us advising them, consulting with them, or providing a strategy, whatever it may be, even just making a simple video, watching them be able to succeed is an amazing feeling. And that's kind of what helps drive us to kind of want to continue to do what we're doing.
I think we've been in business now for 12 years. We started in 2012, and we started very, small. I very much believe in, baby steps. You dot your I's, you cross your T's, and get your policies and procedures in place under one product, and make sure it's streamlined before we then moved on to this next product. And so we started as a photography company that then grew into a photo video company, and we both have marketing backgrounds. So we then grew it into, delving into more of the marketing side for the companies, where we could come in and do both a photography video shoot and create, visual marketing for whatever that company was. But then we realized that quite often they were calling us and going, we need some photos for our website. We need some video for our website. And we were like, what are you going to do with them after you've done? I don't know. We're just being told that we need this. And so we very much wanted to, make a product that was going to sustain those clients and build, whether they realized what they were asking for or not. And I'm sure, and what always happens when we sit down, just like you asking us questions today, when we sit down with our clients and we ask the clarifying questions, they haven't got from A to B, but A to B is in there. They just haven't really strategized it and thought it out. And so that's when we grew into the visual marketing strategy side. And so now we lead with that, because, I don't want to sell a product to somebody that's going to sit in a folder and not get used because they don't know how to use it.
Right.
We very much talk a lot to our clients about, we want you to have a product that's going to sustain you in your business and help you grow.
Yeah, it's interesting. Having been, we met, just I'll divulge just a little bit.
Yeah.
We met, I was CEO of a marketing company in Santa Clarita, and I met you for a shot because we decided just out of the blue, hey, we want some headshots. And so we came in and did headshots there with you in your studio. By the way, which was just a wonderful experience. I had never had professional headshots done before. It was always grabbing somebody in the hall and handing them a camera and kind of going, hey, can you take my picture?
Yeah.
And half your face is a blur. Anyway, we'll get it, So you guys, you made me look good, which is really hard to do.
Right.
but as part of that, the thing I think that we did, we made a mistake. And I think when we created those, created the headshots, and I've seen this in organizations kind of as I've gone along, which is, it is the act of doing, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go get headshots, or I'm going to create a video, or I need to do this. And it's kind of shiny object syndrome sometimes.
A little bit, yeah.
Without an intention, without a story behind it or a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of power in leading an executive or leading a team into the kind of I call it for the sake of what, kind of what are you going to do with this? What's the outcome that you're going to do? So when you're And a lot of leaders, people that want this kind of stuff done, there's generally an outside exertion and a moment of panic, which is, oh crud,
Yeah.
I got to go, I'm going to be on stage and I need pictures. Somebody's asked me for a headshot. So
Yeah.
let's just get this done. How do you blend, because it's kind of the art of coaching and counseling, I suppose. How do
Yeah.
you blend that from, I got to get this done, and solve that panic, right? And then kind of blend somebody into, let's talk about greater strategy in your downstream story, because I'm interested in that.
So, we do get a lot of people in a panic. We very much do. And we have to stick a Band-Aid on a problem sometimes,
Sure.
But one of the first things we do is, no matter whether they are, calling us at 10 a.m. going, do you have anything this afternoon? Which we very rarely do. We don't really work that way. But usually we do have something that week. And quite often I'll be like, hey, who needs this? Can I just speak to them and be like, what's the latest deadline that you need this by, fully edited and retouched? I can give you a placeholder. Let's work together to take stress away from this person who's in a mild panic. And sometimes when you pull out the stress, now we can start having some real conversations. So we quite often try and, take the initial problem away to get rid of the bright, shiny object syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. To get rid of the initial, all I can think about is this one thing that I need to get done. I can't concentrate on next steps. Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, then once we actually have them in our studio, before we even shoot anything, pick a backdrop, anything, we spend 10, 15 minutes sitting with the client and being like, okay, I know that by Thursday you need this, these 5 headshots or whatever it is, this speaking engagement that you're doing on the weekend. We're going to handle that. But can we just be a little futuristic for a second? And can we talk about the next year? Like, what does that look like? Is this going to happen again? Are you speaking on a regular basis? Or have you got a book coming out? Are you redoing your website? Whatever that might be, to realize that this can be an ongoing relationship where I can take things and handle those for you. Brian can create some video side for you, and you can be a less, I feel like a lot of companies, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, Dolan, that marketing is a second thought and then an emergency.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a plan, and marketing should be your first plan. If you're planning to go to your accountant every year and getting this, these are all things that have to be done. And if you don't have a steady cadence of marketing, we all know the ebbs and flows, right? We all know that when you don't think about something for a while, your level of productivity and your level of client service goes down, and then you all of a sudden are in a panic, and then you start to climb again and you get busy and you come down on your marketing. However, if you can give a strategy to somebody, and people are probably like, oh my God, this is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. No, it's part of your budget. It's actually part of your budget. Mm-hmm. It's anyway, depending on the size of your company, it's between 10 and 20% of your overall gross income. It has to be. And if you let that happen, your gross income will skyrocket, but you have to get past the initial, this is really, really, scary and expensive, and I'm only going to do marketing in an emergency, survival mode versus thriving, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think from a leader's perspective, so a lot of times marketing is kind of looked at as and not all organizations, but it's kind of looked at as a general and an administrative kind of a cost, right? Yeah. So if I'm gonna, it's looked at as it's a cost. Yeah. It costs me money to go market.
Yep.
Rather than I need to market because as part of this, and I'll come back and we'll talk about calls to action, right? CTAs and from a marketing perspective and kind of how that works. But I know, I think that dynamic shifts, I think kind of also too by company size, one or two person shops, marketing can be a big cost. There's a mindset that goes into it. So I love the fact that you kind of sit with them and say, hey, so this is, is this a death and taxes kind of thing? Are we going to do this again?
Yeah.
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 And if we are, what does that plan look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're working with the leaders inside of an organization, be it the marketing department, I would imagine you also work with the senior executives, so you understand the vision and all of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of organizations, and I've had a couple of great conversations across my career with people about strategy. So I've got strategy, and I'm going to build this strategy, and there's this mysterious comment that people sometimes put out there: I'm going to grow my income by 10% this year.
Yeah.
And we're going to go do it.
Yeah.
And they talk about operations and talk about all kinds. We're going to go sell more stuff. I'm going to sell things. So we're going to increase our sales volume. We're going to grow our volume by that. But involved in that strategy is, getting people's interest, which kind of happens through marketing sometimes, most of the time. Getting people's interest, but then also making it compelling. So in helping them become engaged. So when you're working with a client and you're building out that engagement process, so how are people going to get engaged? It's probably a horrible open-ended question.
No, you're good.
But how do you pull out of that client's head kind of what that engagement is going to look like, what that experience is going to look like? Because marketing has to align with the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's a disconnect, and somebody's going to think, I expected this, and they're going to be upset. So how do you actually get them to think about that engagement process? We're going to market, and market's going to have some kind of a call. And what do you do from there?
Yeah. From my perspective, I think one of the things that we lean into is we're big into strength finders, which is like we do with our team. And so we've figured out what our strengths are individually and together. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when we're dealing with a client, she's really good at speaking directly to that person and understanding what they need in the moment and kind of going forward. And where I kind of come in as the backup to that is through research. I'm really good about wanting to learn about whatever, if it's the client sat in front of me, or research what's going on with their company and why they're not getting that engagement.
Right.
Kind of where I come in, right? So we kind of balance each other really well as far as dealing with clients in that way. And then once we kind of understand, how that client or that company is, or what they're kind of not doing well to reach the goals that they're trying to reach, then we can kind of come in and create that strategy. And usually the strategy on a general level is based around making sure that they're creating content that's authentic. Yeah. Because if the content is not authentic, if you're just talking about a product that you don't actually believe in, or you're just saying the words that somebody told you to say, it's not going to resonate with the people that you're trying to market to.
I'll add one more thing to that, just real quick.
Sure.
Most businesses, because they're in it, are also looking from the inside out, not the outside in.
Yeah.
So we find a ton of clients when they first sit down with us and say, I'm going to increase my revenue by 10% this year. We ask them like how they're going to do that. And, they go around in circles a little bit. And quite often it ends up being, well, I'm going to add another 10 hours of productivity to my week. And it's like, yeah, of course you will. You're going to spin your wheels. And now you're doing an 80-hour week instead of a 70-hour week. And if you did the math of that 10% coming down, you're actually earning, $2 less per hour than you were if you just stayed, the plan that you're in, right?
Yeah.
So we do a lot of forecasting, but then we also want to see, quite often, and I'm sure you've heard it in your business. I'm sure, the guys who you worked with in the marketing company when we worked with you, and we hear this all the time. Like we'll be at a networking event and two people will be talking, and one will say to the other, "Oh, I didn't know you do that." And they're like, "Oh God, I feel like I've been shouting this from the rooftops." And it's like, no, you've been talking about it within your company, but you haven't been marketing it. You haven't been going out there and, saying who you really are, your core values, what you stand for, what the product does, how it you've only said the bare bones of it. And so are you marketing from the outside in, making sure the clients fully understand? Or are you just shouting from the rooftops within your organization going, but everybody should know this?
And I can kind of give a real quick personal example about how that affected us, right? Is because when we started our business, we were a photography company, right?
Yeah.
And even to this day, there's still people that come up to us and go, she's the photo lady. And we don't just accept that, right?
Yeah.
We correct them in the moment, not in a negative way, but we correct them in the moment that say we do much more than that. And we kind of re-educate them on what we do, because we have evolved, and we have to make sure that our clients are evolving with us, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. For me, so a couple of things in there. And I'll go back a little bit to Brian. When you were talking, and you mentioned, authentic.
Yeah.
And one of the things I talk a lot about is authentic leadership. There's a bunch of stuff. It's not about me. It's about you guys. But I talk about authenticity and leadership, right? Because people can smell it on you when you're not authentic.
100%.
Yeah.
So when you are, not everybody knows how to be authentic.
Correct.
Yeah.
That person who is the spokesperson for that organization, I went through PR training many years ago, pre-gray hair, and as part of that training, I was told, don't actually tell everybody everything. Don't be authentic, basically. Don't do that. So how do you, the very first thing is, how do you recognize authenticity? And when you don't see it, how do you correct it? And what do you do in that moment as the producer, videographer, photographer, consigliere? What do you do?
Yeah. We talk a lot to our clients about this. No matter who you are or what you do, whether that's you speaking on stage, whether that's having a session with me, whether that's being, in front of a camera with Brian, is, whatever it is, whoever you are, you can't sustain being somebody else for the long period. You can't. At some point you're going to falter. And I feel like that's what you're saying, when people can smell that you are being, fake or what have you. Sometimes you just have to, not sometimes, always, you have to show your personality. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. They always will. They always will. Products have personalities now, which, marketing companies, far larger and far more experienced than we are, looking at Apple, so to speak. An iPod, a phone, has a personality all of its own. That's why, even though, looking at the technology of a Samsung phone, to be honest, the technology is far more advanced. I'm sure somebody from Apple is going to slap me for saying this, but, is far more ahead of what's happening with Apple. But because of the personality and the core values that the people at that company have created, it is so relatable to the masses, because they have created a product based on know, like, trust.
Right.
And it's the same with any personality, and they cultivate their personality more than anything else across every product they do. Their core values of being user friendly, their core values of being happy and colorful and positive, that sustains their product. And the same with a person. I feel like the first few years we were in business, when you're growing a business, you will get a lot of different clients in, and sometimes there's a disconnect with a client and you don't know why. And, I think it's because we were marketing in different ways and trying different things and talking to different people and trying to be a chameleon to everybody we were serving. And that doesn't work. But when we decided to, create our core values, I think it was probably year 3, create our core values of exactly who we are as people, not as, we're a lean company. You're not just creating a product with us, you're getting an experience with the Schlicks. You are, And so who are the Schlicks? And we didn't try and make ourselves into somebody else. We sat down and talked about the things that were important to us and talked about, the lifestyle that we wanted and the people we wanted to hang out with on a daily basis. And we are a company that spends 60 hours a week here. We love what we do. I don't think we do that because we're, stretched. I think it's part of, who we are. This is our baby, and we love what we do, and we love the clients that we hang out with and the networks that we sit in. And I think that works with our clients. And I think building a company in that way means that you really have pure joy with every single person you work with. Yeah.
And I think the way that we talk to our clients in front of us is that it's kind of like almost like a personal relationship with them. Because we get to know them. We're not transactional. So we don't just sit somebody in front of our camera and wham, bam, we're done. Like we have a relationship with them, whether that's 15 minutes before a headshot session or leading up to video or strategy sessions. Like we're not just transactional. We want to make sure that what we're driving within their company and with them does come out authentic, because we've gotten to know them. And so when they're in front of our cameras, we're asking them questions. We can kind of call them out, not necessarily in a negative way, but kind of call them out and say, that's not actually you. You're talking about what you think people want to hear. That's not you, and that's how we create kind of authentic content for our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing. I think we could spend another hour unpacking just this little tiny bit around authenticity. But, Lindsay, you were talking about, core values. And I think one of the things that a lot of organizations experience is they have core values, right? And they're on a plaque on the wall behind them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can't say them.
Yeah.
If they were called on the carpet, or if somebody said, "Hey, if I I got a $50 bill, I'm going to put this in your hand. If you can recite every core value to me word for word," they can't do it. It's a pretty safe bet you're going to keep your $50.
Yeah. And that's just strategy. That's literally just strategy. They wrote their core values and they were like, okay, we're done.
So check it out.
Yeah, checkbox. Yeah, good point, Brian. Yeah.
There's no futurism in that. They're like, okay, that was just something that we were told we had to do, versus how are you implementing each of those core values into everything that you're doing on a daily basis? Right. How are you, making your products experiential based on those core values? When you send an email every day to a client, whether it be good, bad, or in between, does the email match the voice? We've had people say to us, "Oh my gosh, your newsletter, I can hear you in my head." And that's, yeah, I can hear you in my head. And so for me, that is the biggest compliment of all, that like when you're reading something that we've written or strategized about, that you can, you hear us, because everything that we put down, it's kind of funny. We were joking this morning, even I got 3 emails this morning and I'm in the car going, like this. And Brian's like, it is what it is. And I'm like, oh no, I will sit here and go, and then I will sit and think about everything that I want to write, to the point that that's not how I feel. That's how I feel in the moment when you wake up to, 3
Sure.
that you got to kind of deal with that day, when you've got a day already, you got your schedule. I feel like every single person in the world does that. That doesn't make us a bad person or anything. That just means that a little hurdle or a little, a boulder has just jumped in your way of your day and you have to climb over it now, and we are very good at, I don't even believe you write an email and sit on it till the next day. I believe if you are not ready to write the email, you're not ready to write the email. You need to mentally get yourself back to a place of, who you are and what you stand for and your core values, and then, move on from there. So, but that's just strategy. We weren't always like that. If we didn't think this detailed into all of these things, if we hadn't created a policy of how this works, then yeah, we would just be willy-nilly just going out there like writing emails like
Right.
some of the emails I get, you know.
And shouting from the rooftops. I love that. I love that you're saying that, because there is a difference between there's always marketing inside of your team, right? Because you're building advocates and you're building champions and you're doing those things inside of your team who support the core value and help new people and do things. And they also say nice things about you when they're with their family and other people.
Yeah.
Hey, I get to work with Brian and Lindsay, and this is, well, actually Lindsay and Brian. Let's put it in the right order. And I get to, and like, that's how it is in my house. It's Linda and Doland. It's not Doland and Linda. A lot of times I'm just Linda's husband. But you know, when you're kind of doing that, you know, and you're in that mode of shouting from the rooftop, that's a misalignment problem.
Yeah.
That means you haven't thought about strategy, and you haven't thought about how do I want my messaging to go. And a lot of it can be hit or miss. I mean, some things work, some things don't. And it's kind of like stocks. Sometimes it's a good stock, sometimes it's not a good stock, you know, or a restaurant.
Yeah.
So,
but if you don't put any thought into it at all, then you are just flailing, you know, you're just, you know, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks, right?
yeah, exactly. You're doing the spaghetti method. Let's try that. I'm going to do a 4-part split test, and we'll put up 4 different versions and see what it's like. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
So we have broken the rule of the podcast, and as I mentioned pre-recording, that usually I'm the guy that breaks this rule, and we go longer. But I have 1 or 2 things I do want to talk about just a little more, and then we'll wrap up. You know, one of the things that is a service that you've added is a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just take a moment, if you don't mind, and if you can explain what the hell's a CMO. A lot of people are going to hear that, and they hear marketing, and they hear, you know, why do I need to see
fractional either? Yeah.
Why? So I'm really curious about if I'm listening as a company, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Why do I want a CMO? What does that person do?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on the organization of your company. Some people, if it's a 1-person company, they probably are their own CMO, their own marketing person, their own president, their own everything,
Sure.
right? They do everything. So we can help step in and be that marketing voice for them. Sounding board, we can actually do actual physical marketing for them as well. And then as organizations grow, or as they're bigger, they might already have a marketing person in place. They might already have a marketing officer in place. But kind of going back to what Lindsay was saying at the beginning is like, sometimes those people are either overwhelmed by the amount of work that they have to market for, depending on the size of their organization, and they may be the only person in marketing. They might have 1 or 2 people underneath them, and they're only kind of looking internally, right? They're only looking at what products and services their organization does, and they can only see it from the inside. So a fractional CMO can come in, like ourselves, and help them see that outside, bigger perspective. So it ranges, right? It depends on the size of the company or the need of the company, depending on what it is. We never want to come in as a CMO and take someone's job away from them. We're there to fully support and make sure that the strategy and the marketing that they want to put out there is actually getting accomplished. And we can help kind of guide that and help within their own organization, work with their team that's existing, and potentially outside vendors if need be, right? It could be us if they need video. It could be somebody else if they need somebody to develop a website for them. It depends, right? We have all those kind of connections, referral partners to work with.
To give it a couple of examples. So the first example we worked with a financial institution, and their marketing vice president of marketing. She had actually come from a company where she was a manager of marketing on a team of 10, right? So she was in a management position. Mm-hmm. And she had staff underneath her and then a boss above her. Sure. And she was brought onto into a bank that is not a huge bank. It's not countrywide. It's actually county sized.
Okay.
Bank. And she was the VP, she was promoted to the VP of marketing with absolutely nobody underneath her. So when we came in and were given this opportunity, she hadn't got the lay of the land, needed somebody to soundbite with, to strategize with. We all need a partner. We all need somebody to lead in an organization with us. And so we were a fantastic fit for her when it came to, okay, these are, we went in, we talked about forecasting for where they're, why was she brought in? What was the company trying to achieve?
Right.
And so from that, how can we break this down? And so in that case, we were partners with her. We could create video and photo products based off the forecasting that we'd done together in a strategic planning meeting. But then also she needed help with even just, you forget about things like, oh, we need to do mailers, we need to do events, we need to do that. You kind of become not just an operations person, but a planner, getting the planning out there. So that's one example. Another example of a company that we work with all the time is a law firm. A law firm that has 8 staff. All lawyers and all paralegals are receptionists and kind of like an assistant, right?
Yes.
Attorneys, generally get very busy fast, especially when they're a niche attorney. They're not, an attorney that does like a big company that does everything. A lot of law firms now are breaking. It's not the law firm of like 1999 when you all worked for a big firm and it was like, Brent Farber and Kent or whatever. And now you can see through the quality of life, especially after COVID, a lot of law firms know that they can go out on their own and have teams with even their friends of like 5 or 6 people and generate a lot of income from that.
It's kind of a boutique.
Sure.
Yeah, from that firm. But and if they're a niche and well loved by their clients, they get a lot of referral based business. But then again, like when you've got something of that size, you hit a certain level and now it's like, where are we going to grow to? Are we going to stay or are we going to grow? And we're starting to see a lot of these law firms coming out and doing this, across the board. But then you have to grow somewhere, to the next level. Your kids want to go to college, like you want to sustain keeping your team on staff. Everybody needs and wants growth, right?
Right.
So generally those firms, they don't have a, chief marketing officer in their firm. They don't even have a marketing person, an assistant who has no business doing marketing because she's busy as heck with all the other things that you need to do, and is not that's not her strength or his strength. The paralegal, that's not their strength. So we work with a couple of attorneys. We work with one where we are the fractional CMO for them, and we do everything from we speak to the web company on their behalf. We, our company not only creates the video and the photo, we also make sure those videos end up on their blog/publicist page. We send them out a newsletter every month with that video education. We have a network here in Santa Clarita where we can reach out and, if you're like, I want some flyers to go out to different businesses, or I want, a billboard created, we have a network. We are not your graphic designers. We are not your web designers, but they're in our network and we can manage the operations of it on your behalf. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think one of the powerful things in that, there's a lot of power to that. So having lived that role as CEO of a marketing company and then chief operating officer of a large, multi-8-figure kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And working with a VP of marketing, it does become a challenge because one of the things that gets lost in organizations is 2 things. The first is elasticity. And the elasticity is I need a CMO, or I need somebody, whatever you call that title at the time. I need that somebody in there help us with our strategy, to make sure the wheels are on the bus, and to help us put together the plan to go execute it. And the VP, once they have the plan, they can go do it.
Yeah.
But most companies are missing the last part that you talked about, which is the portfolio.
Yeah.
People that you can bring to bear, who can solve something at the need, which gives that business that elasticity and the relationships, because they don't know who to go trust. They don't know if I engage Andy, is Andy really going to put a billboard up? Am I really going to get what I'm supposed to have? So there's levels of accountability in there. In the old days in the software industry, I used to call that one throat to choke. And it meant I had one person who could help me go get all these people, and it was a lot easier to manage the process.
Yeah. But the great thing about the fractional side is, we're not on staff. We're not there, 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, and you're paying as a salary of what you would expect a chief marketing officer to make, which I think that's the bit that frightens a lot of people, is that instead we are there fractionally. We sit down, we do a strategy, we talk about how much you need, and we literally write a quote for whether that's 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month, whatever it is that you need. And we also do the analytics as well. So, you'll see the return of investment by who contacted you based on this newsletter, who contacted you based on this video, how much has your LinkedIn grown. We're finding LinkedIn so huge right now with the LinkedIn newsletters that are coming out, especially for business to business, which is generally what we are, and our clients are very business to business. So we come in fractionally. So you're paying a fraction of the cost of having a chief marketing officer on staff, right?
Yeah, to the cost of a chief marketing officer can be extraordinary. And they also generally, there's rev share and there's all kinds of other things that end up in all that. And having been there on both sides, seen that. So we're kind of coming to a point to where it's time to wrap up the conversation. Absolutely. At least this part of the conversation. But just kind of one thing. The very first thing is, and I know your business has evolved over time. And by the way, you've used the word relationships. There's a lot of things that have come out of this. I will encourage any leader listening to the podcast to listen to this, not just from the term of what Brian and Lindsay are talking about from a marketing perspective, or here are the things you need to think of, but the key points, core values, relationships. One of the things, I think maybe Brian, you said it, that, when you bring in a CMO, people are afraid that the CMO may be in there to replace them. Yeah. If you're inside of a company and somebody's bringing a person in to work side by side with you, and you're concerned you're going to be replaced, something is wrong with the relationship that you have at the core to start with.
100%.
So get that fixed. Because that's not the intention, or at least, so go get that fixed. Just one old guy's advice. Now, as your business grows and you're doing things, let's just talk briefly about the last kind of two topics. What kind of clients, who do you like to work with? What do you look for in a client? If somebody's interested and they can say, hey, I do that. What are you looking for in a client?
Well, first, we do have niches that we work with. We work with a lot of people in the medical field, medical offices. We work with a lot of therapists, attorneys. We work with a lot of attorneys. We work with a lot of financial companies. We enjoy that environment. But we also work with a lot of, companies that are like 1, 2, 3 people as well. But for us, there has to be, and this is going to sound kind of strange, I love comparing it to going to the gym and doing a workout. Like if your heart's not in it, you have to be invested in change. If you want growth, if you want your marketing to succeed, there is an investment there, whether that's, monetarily or mentally, to be honest. This isn't a place, bringing a fractional CMO in or a strategist in it's against the term, this is the way we've always done it, you know? And we thrive on change. We want to be your cheerleaders. We want to be in your corner. But sometimes, you know, if you're not there yet, it might be something that we say, you know, get your ducks in a row, you know, maybe you haven't hit that point yet. Yep. So, but we're open to working with, you know, all kinds of companies. We have all kinds of companies in our book of business, especially for our, you know, our headshot side. We serve a lot of people. You know, you don't need to come to us for all the marketing strategy, but even when you come for a headshot session, I'm going to sit down and be a little futuristic with you. Even if you're just coming in for an introductory video, we're going to sit down and have a conversation with you. Yeah. We're here for people that align with, you know, our beliefs of, you know, this is here to help you move forward. And there's a strategy behind everything that we do. Yeah. We're not just going to create you a product and send you on your way. Yeah.
Great. That's cool. Yeah. So how, this will be in the show notes, obviously, but so how do people, what's the easiest way without anybody having to go find the show notes and read stuff?
Yep.
How do they find you?
Best way to do it is schlickart.com is our website. We're on every major social channel, I guess you should say. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all just Schlick Art, all one word. We're on YouTube. We got tons of video content on YouTube. Yes.
Yeah,
that's it.
I would just say also, we give a lot of educational content away for marketing through our newsletter. So if you go to schlickart.com and you you sign up for our newsletter, we give that out digitally once to twice a week. Our blog is fundamental on our website. Our blog gets updated once to twice a week with tons of free marketing content and maybe things that you haven't thought about within your company. So schlickart.com is the place. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna thank you both very much for joining me for this conversation today. So if you've watched this podcast, of course, you know, I'm going to say, give it a no, like, or follow. That's important. Please do. Please subscribe when you are learning and discovering new content that you can use in your career. It's a repetitive exercise. We as humans don't get to do that one time. But what's even more important is if you know one or two individuals who lead a team or lead an organization that may have the kind of challenges that we've talked about today, please share this podcast with them. Make their career better. Solve a problem for them. Give them something that helps them do more, be better, and grow in their careers. So I'm Doland. Thanks, Brian, Lindsay, for being with me here today. I'm grateful. So thank you very much.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
You've been listening to The Next Interview. For more information about today's guest, be sure to visit the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, give us a follow and be sure to join us here on The Next Interview.